So last video I went over the ovarian and uterine cycle, and I'm going to further elaborate mainly on the corpus luteum. Okay, the corpus luteum is created in the ovulation phase of the ovarian cycle, right? That dominant follicle ruptures, releasing an ovum, while also becoming the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is a hormone-producing thing in the ovary that influences what's going on in the uterus, okay? So what happens is that the corpus luteum, once it's created after ovulation, starts to secrete two main hormones, progesterone and estrogen, okay? Estrogen is serving to maintain that endometrial layer, right, which corresponds to estrogen prior to ovulation is being secreted by the follicles, the dominant follicle as well as the antral follicles. High sustained levels of estrogen is leading to, or is corresponding to, the proliferative phase of the uterine cycle. The proliferative phase involves rapid endometrial growth, okay? Corpus luteum, after ovulation, when the corpus luteum is created, is still going to continue secreting estrogen, is still going to bring estrogen to the uterus in order to maintain the endometrial layer. We're not at the proliferative phase, we're past the proliferative phase in the secretory phase, right? But we still want to maintain that endometrial layer. So that's what estrogen is doing, and corpus luteum is secreting it. The other hormone that the corpus luteum is secreting is progesterone. Okay, the progesterone is going to be doing two main things. Okay, it's going to stimulate endometrial glands to secrete nutrients. This corresponds to the secretory phase, which is the last phase of the menstrual cycle or the uterine cycle. Okay, and this secretion of nutrients transforms this proliferative endometrium, which is that second phase of the uterine cycle, proliferative phase, into a secretory endometrium. Secretory meaning secreting nutrients to create an optimal environment in the uterus to nourish a baby. Now, the second thing that progesterone is doing to the uterus is vasodilating spiral arteries. Spiral arteries branch off of the uterine artery, and they serve to bring blood supply to the uterus, to act as another factor that nourishes and creates an optimal environment in the uterus to develop the embryo. Okay? So spiral artery, vasodilation, and glandular secretion. What are spiral arteries and why are they significant? Spiral arteries are significant because they are very adaptable. Okay? They have functional flexibility, meaning they can shorten and lengthen depending on the needs of the uterus. Okay? Recall that the uterus, specifically the endometrial layer, is constantly changing. Okay, the first phase, the menstrual phase, the endometrial layer is shedding. Okay, it's slewing off the uterus and exiting the body via vaginal bleeding. Right. Now, then during the proliferative phase, the endometrial layer is going to thicken and increase in size. These spiral arteries are embedded within this endometrial layer and shorten and lengthen depending on what's going on during the menstrual cycle. The second benefit of spiral arteries is that they fine-tune blood flow regulation. Because they're spiral, they're able to coil, they're able to shorten and lengthen. They can fine-tune the amount of blood flow that is being sent to the uterus. And lastly, their ability to adapt to early pregnancy needs. So spiral arteries, they're able to shorten and lengthen, but we'll also see around week 5 of gestation, the spiral arteries are going to be remodeled. Okay, they're going to be remodeled by trophoblast. If you remember trophoblast, they're on the exterior of that blastocyst, which is our fertilized egg, and they're going to be releasing human chorionic gonadotropin to continue maintaining the corpus luteum, to continue supporting the corpus luteum so that the corpus luteum can continue secreting progesterone and estrogen. Okay, so trophoblasts are doing two main things here: secreting HCG, which is maintaining progesterone and estrogen secretions from the corpus luteum, and trophoblast cells are also, around week 5 of the gestational timeline, they are going to be remodeling the spiral arteries. So they are going to dig into that endometrial layer and modify the spiral arteries so that they can adapt to early pregnancy needs. What are they going to do to these spiral arteries? The main thing that they're going to do, that you should know, is that they're going to remove the smooth muscle within the spiral arteries. Okay, so this is going to reduce the vascular tone of the spiral arteries, inhibiting them from vasoconstriction. So they're going to turn into these high resistance constricted vessels into low resistance dilated vessel, and this is going to be most optimal for bringing in nutrients to create an optimal uterine environment to nourish a baby, right? So this is the importance of those trophoblast cells. Not only are they releasing human chorionic gonadotropin to maintain the corpus luteum, but they are also going to be remodeling our spiral arteries around week 5 of gestation. Now, what's also important to know is that eventually the corpus luteum will no longer be needed. Okay? It's going to be replaced by another thing, which is the placenta. Okay? It's going to be replaced by the placenta. Now, why is the corpus luteum important? Why do we need it, especially during weeks 1 through 6 of gestation? Corpus luteum is secreting progesterone and estrogen. And we know why progesterone is important for these two main reasons, especially in the secretory phase. And then we know why estrogen is important, because it's maintaining that endometrial layer. Okay? So that's why the corpus luteum is important, for the secretion of progesterone and estrogen. But the placenta, eventually, it's going to gradually replace the corpus luteum. It's going to replace the corpus luteum by secreting progesterone and estrogen. Okay? So it's going to take over corpus luteum's job around weeks 10 through 12 officially. Okay? Weeks 1 through 6, predominantly the corpus luteum that's secreting these hormones. Then around weeks 7 through 9, the placenta is gradually making its appearance with regards to its hormone production. And then weeks 10 through 12, that's when the placenta is fully taking over the job and it's ready to go. And the corpus luteum degrades into what? The corpus albicans. Okay? Now, we know that when fertilization does occur, the blastocyst is created, which is that fertilized egg. And then the exterior of that blastocyst, we have those trophoblasts that are releasing HCG, further maintaining the corpus luteum, increasing progesterone and estrogen secretion. Okay? And eventually, around week 5 of gestation, the spiral arteries are going to be remodeled by those trophoblasts. But what if the spiral arteries are not properly remodeled? What if the trophoblasts do not do a good job in removing that smooth muscle layer from the spiral arteries? What's going to happen? Well, what may happen is that the spiral arteries may be insufficient in properly perfusing the uterus and therefore the placenta. Okay? Specifically, if the placenta is not properly perfused, things are going to happen. Okay? Mainly ischemia of the placenta. The placenta is not going to receive enough blood supply, therefore it's not going to receive sufficient oxygen, and the placenta will be ischemic. Okay? And this will cause a variety of harmful effects. that are not good, okay? And so poor remodeling of the spiral arteries will lead to poor blood supply to the uterus, okay? And the technical term for a pathology that can arise from an ischemic placenta is preeclampsia. Preeclampsia. Okay. And preeclampsia is what I will be talking about in the next video. Thank you.